She told us you guys had an open marriage. I almost dropped my drink. It was just a casual comment. A throwaway line at a friend's barbecue. Someone's wife had made a joke about cheating, and another guy, Rick, an old college friend, had laughed and waved a hand in my direction. Not like Mark cares. Dude, you've got it figured out. We always thought it was cool how chill you were about the whole open marriage thing. The whole what? I laughed too loudly like I was in on the joke, but my mind was already racing. Wait, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Who told you that? Rick just shrugged. Your wife. Said you had an agreement. No jealousy, no drama. Honestly, man, I respect it. That level of trust. I wasn't listening anymore. I felt my stomach drop, my skin go cold. Because here's the thing. I did not have an open marriage. I never agreed to anything like that. And I knew, deep down, that my wife, my perfect, loving, supposedly loyal wife, wouldn't have made something like that up for no reason. Unless she needed an excuse. Unless she was covering for something. Unless she was lying to everyone about me. So she could sleep with someone else. I smiled. I nodded. I let the conversation move on like nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. And I was going to find out just how deep this betrayal went. How do you find out if your wife is cheating? Well, you start small. You check the things that don't seem important until they do. That night, I lay in bed next to my wife, staring at the ceiling. She was asleep, breathing slow and steady, curled up like she didn't have a care in the world. Like she hadn't just told half her social circle that she had my permission to screw other men. I wanted to shake her awake. I wanted to demand answers. But I didn't. Confrontation would tip her off. If she really was hiding something, she'd have time to cover her tracks. No, I needed proof. I started small. First, I checked her phone when she went to shower. Nothing obvious. No suspicious messages. No flirty texts. But that didn't mean much. If she was actually cheating, she wouldn't be dumb enough to leave evidence sitting in plain sight. Then I checked her emails. Work stuff, promotions, nothing unusual. But then, her call log. I didn't recognize the number. No name saved, but there it was, repeated almost every day for the past 2 months. Always late at night. Always when I wasn't home. A blocked number, but not blocked enough. I copied it down. Now I had something. A thread to pull. But it wasn't just about who she was calling. It was about where she was spending her time. So the next step was tracking her movements. And I knew exactly where to start. Our bank statements. Our shared credit cards. The little things she thought I'd never notice. I sat down on my laptop and started digging. 15 minutes later, my hands were shaking. Because there it was. Repeated charges at the same place. A place I had never been. A place I had never even heard of. A small veterinary clinic on the other side of town. And I knew for a fact we didn't own a pet. A vet clinic. It was such a weird place for the trail to lead. I stared at the charges on the bank statement, willing them to make sense. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe she'd been helping a friend with their pet. Maybe she'd found a stray. Maybe. But I doubted it. I copied the clinic's name and pulled up their website. Small place, family-owned. A handful of doctors listed on the staff page. And that's when I saw his name. Dr. Andrew Lang. I didn't know him. Had never met him. But I recognized his face. Because I'd seen him before, in the background of my wife's photos. Not obvious ones. Not couple shots. No, he was smarter than that. But he was there. At her work events. At a charity dinner. Always a few feet away. Always blending into the crowd. Just some friendly acquaintance. Except now, I knew better. I scrolled through the clinic's page, taking in every detail. Their hours. Their staff. Their emergency after-hours policy. Because if my wife was going there, I needed to know when and why. And I needed to see it with my own eyes. So I made a decision. Tomorrow I was going to pay Dr. Lang a visit. And I wasn't going to tell my wife. The next afternoon, I sat in my car across the street from Lang Animal Clinic, pretending I wasn't about to do something insane. I'd been here for almost an hour. Watching. Waiting. Trying to figure out what the hell I was even looking for. Patients came and went. A steady stream of pet owners carrying dogs, cats, the occasional rabbit. Normal people doing normal things. And then, her car pulled in. My stomach clenched. She parked in the back away from the main entrance, near a side door marked staff only. She sat there for a moment, checking her phone, then got out. No pet, no carrier, just her. She walked straight through that side door like she belonged there. Not a client, not a concerned animal lover. Something else. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at that door, waiting. 20 minutes passed. 30. An hour. By the time she finally came out, the sky had started to darken. She wasn't alone. Dr. Andrew Lang walked her to her car. They weren't touching, but the body language was clear. Familiar. Too easy around each other. He said something, and she laughed. Not just polite laughter, but the kind of laugh she used to save for me. Then he reached up, touched her hair, tucked it behind her ear. And I knew. I knew. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. For a second, I wanted to storm across the street, rip open that door, and ask her how long she'd been making a fool of me. But I didn't, because I wasn't just looking for proof anymore. I was thinking about what came next. And if I played this right, they weren't just going to get caught. They were going to destroy each other. I didn't sleep that night. My wife curled up next to me, peaceful, like she hadn't just spent her evening with another man. Her arm draped over my chest, her breath slow and steady. I could smell his cologne on her. I stared at the ceiling, my mind buzzing. Confronting her would be stupid. She'd lie. She'd gaslight. She'd tell me I was crazy, that I'd misunderstood, that Dr. Lang was just a friend. So I did what any man in my position would do. I decided to become an expert on Andrew Lang. Step 1, his online presence. At 2 a.m., I sat on the couch, scrolling through every scrap of information I could find. His clinic's website, bland. Professional. A small team, glowing testimonials. Social media, Facebook mostly. Nothing crazy. Pictures of hiking trips, charity work, posts about pet adoptions. LinkedIn, impressive. Graduated top of his class. Built his clinic from the ground up. Well-respected. A pillar of the community. A good man. And I hated him for it. Step 2, his schedule. Over the next few days, I made myself a shadow. Thursday, I followed him after work. He stopped by a farmer's market, bought fresh produce, went home. Friday, he met up with friends at a bar. Left alone. Saturday, my wife's car was in his driveway for 3 hours. She came home smelling like vanilla lotion and red wine. I didn't say a word, because now I knew his habits. I knew where he went, who he spent time with, how he spent his nights. And most importantly, I knew his weakness. He was careful, private, didn't take risks. But my wife? She was sloppy. She thought she was untouchable, and that was going to be her downfall. I used to think betrayal was a single moment, a sharp, clean break. Like in the movies, the protagonist catches his wife in bed with another man, and boom, his world shatters. Turns out real betrayal is slower, uglier. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And once I started paying attention, I realized I'd been bleeding for a long time. The perfect wife I thought I had. For 10 years, I believed I was married to the kind of woman people envy. She was the charming one at dinner parties. The woman who made people say, "Man, Mark, you're lucky." And I was. Or at least, I thought I was. Now I saw the cracks. The way she never left her phone face up anymore. The mysterious shopping bags she always shoved into the back of the closet. The tiny, almost imperceptible shift in how she kissed me, like I was an old habit instead of a man she wanted. It wasn't obvious until I knew what to look for. Then it was everywhere. The credit card bill that changed everything. I had already found the weird vet clinic charges. But that wasn't enough. I needed more. So one night, while she was in the shower, I logged into our bank account and started going through every transaction. At first, it was normal stuff. Grocery stores, gas stations, the occasional Sephora splurge. Then a new pattern. Expensive wine purchases. Reservations at high-end restaurants I had never been to. A $300 charge at a lingerie boutique I didn't even know existed. Let me be clear. My wife hadn't worn lingerie for me in years. At this point, I knew she was sleeping with Andrew Lang. But this wasn't just about cheating. This was intentional. She was using our money to make another man feel special. And that's what broke me. Not the infidelity. Not the sneaking around. The fact that she used me as a goddamn ATM to fund her affair. The conversation that gave her away. I needed confirmation. I needed to hear her lie to my face. So I played dumb. One night, as we were lying in bed, I rolled over and casually said, "Hey, babe, have you been buying a lot of wine lately?" She stiffened, just for a second, just long enough for me to notice. Then she let out a fake little laugh. "Oh, yeah, I got some bottles for a work event." "Why?" "A work event." The last time she had a work event, the only thing they were serving was lukewarm coffee and stale pastries. But I smiled, like I believed her. "Oh, no reason," I said. "I just noticed the charges and figured I should start drinking with you." She relaxed, gave me a small kiss on the cheek, and just like that, the lie was complete. The final clue. What was she waiting for? By now, I knew two things. One, my wife was actively cheating on me. Two, she was comfortable enough to keep lying about it. But something still wasn't adding up. If she loved this guy so much, if she was spending money on him, sneaking around for him, why hadn't she left me yet? That's when I started digging deeper. And that's when I found the real betrayal. She wasn't just cheating. She was using me for something bigger, something that would have left me completely screwed. And once I figured out what it was, my little plan for revenge, it got a whole lot darker. Have you ever had one of those moments where your entire body just stops? Not panic, not anger, something colder, something quieter. That was me when I found the loan application, a document buried deep in our shared email folder. One she probably assumed I'd never look at. It was a request for a home equity loan, a big one, signed with my name, except I never signed it. I read the document 3 times, hoping I was wrong. But there it was, my forged signature, my credit, my financial history, all used as collateral for a loan I didn't even know existed. And the worst part? It had already been approved. What the hell was she planning? I sat in my office, staring at the screen, trying to put the pieces together. She was cheating. She was lying. And now she was stealing from me. But for what? She wasn't blowing it all on fancy dates with Dr. Andrew Lang. No, this was bigger, calculated. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I called her mother, a fun little family secret. Now, my mother-in-law has never liked me. I'm not sure if it's because she thought her daughter could do better, or if she just hated the fact that I didn't come from money like she did. Either way, I knew she wasn't going to volunteer information. So I played dumb. "Hey, Karen, quick question. Has Emily mentioned anything about real estate lately? Like investing or buying property?" Silence. Then the sound of her shifting in her chair. Uncomfortable. "Bingo." "Oh," she said. "I assumed you knew." "Knew what?" Another pause. Then, the bombshell. Emily and Andrew are starting a business together. A high-end pet spa. She's putting up the money for it. I felt my pulse slow. A pet spa. A luxury vet clinic. She was taking our home, our savings, our entire financial future, and betting it all on her boyfriend's dream project. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the sheer audacity of it was so ridiculous I didn't know what else to do. She was actively building a life with another man and expecting me to fund it. I could have screamed. Instead, I took a breath, and I smiled, because now I knew exactly how I was going to destroy them. Step 1. Cut off the money. I called the bank first thing the next morning. "Hey, this is Mark. Someone tried to take out a loan in my name without my consent. I'd like to cancel it and report potential fraud." Now, here's the fun thing about financial institutions. They don't take kindly to identity theft. Within 24 hours, the loan was frozen. The fraud team was notified. An investigation was launched. Emily had no idea yet. I wanted to see her squirm. Step 2. Create doubt. Next, I needed to start planting seeds. If this was going to work, Emily and Andrew needed to turn on each other. So I did something simple. I made an anonymous call to Andrew's clinic. "Hey," I said, disguising my voice, "I just thought you guys should know. One of your veterinarians has been making shady business deals. You might want to check the clinic's finances before someone else does." Click. Would that be enough to spook him? Maybe. Would it make him paranoid enough to start questioning Emily? Absolutely. Step 3. The beginning of the end. I didn't have to wait long to see the fallout. 3 days later, Emily sat across from me at dinner, picking at her food, clearly distracted. "Everything okay?" I asked, pretending not to know. She sighed. "It's just something weird happened today." "Oh." She hesitated. I got a call from the bank. They said there was an issue with our loan paperwork. And then Andrew said someone made an anonymous complaint about him at work. She frowned, running a hand through her hair. It just feels like, I don't know, like someone is trying to mess with us. I took a slow sip of my drink, and I smiled. Because the best part? This was only the beginning. I always thought revenge was a dramatic, fiery thing. Screaming matches, explosive confrontations, maybe even a little property damage. Turns out, real revenge? It's patience. It's planting a single seed and watching it spread like poison through someone's life. It's letting them unravel themselves. And that's exactly what I was about to do. First, I let her sweat. Over the next week, I watched Emily spiral. The bank was calling her daily. Andrew was asking too many questions. The anonymous tip at his clinic had rattled him. I could see the cracks forming. And my personal favorite moment? The night she came home, pacing the living room, muttering about how someone is setting me up. Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea. Next, I gave the bank something to investigate. Remember that loan she forged in my name? I wasn't done with that. I gathered every piece of evidence I had. The falsified paperwork, the digital signature logs, the suspicious money transfers to her business account. Then I sent it all anonymously to the bank's fraud department. Boom. By the end of the week, she wasn't just dealing with a frozen loan. She was under formal investigation. Then I made sure Andrew found out. See, up until now, Andrew still thought they were in this together. He thought she was his business partner, his ride or die, his sugar mama with a heart of gold. So I fixed that. I created a fake email account, and I sent him something fun from concernedcitizen@email.com to andrew.lang@langvictclinic.com. Subject: You should know. Hey, Dr. Lang, I don't know you, and you don't know me, but I want someone to tell me if the person I was trusting was lying to my face. You think Emily is financing your new business, right? With her own money? Wrong. She forged her husband's signature on the loan. He reported it as fraud. That's why the funds are locked. Check the documents yourself. You'll see the truth. Have a great day. Click. Sent. Now all I had to do was sit back and wait for the fire to spread. The blow-up. Front row seats to her downfall. It took less than 24 hours for Andrew to start losing his mind. How do I know? Because that night, as I sat on the couch pretending to read, Emily stormed through the front door, phone in hand, absolutely furious. I watched her slam her bag on the table, hands shaking. Then she called him. Andrew, I swear to God, I didn't do anything wrong. Pause. She listened, jaw tightening. Then, the moment I've been waiting for. You don't trust me? After everything we've been through? That's the sound of a relationship falling apart. I took a slow sip of my beer, barely containing my smile. Because here's the thing, it wasn't just Andrew she had to worry about anymore. No, my dear wife was about to have much bigger problems. And tomorrow morning, the police were going to make sure of that. I'll never forget the sound of the knock. Not a normal knock. Not the kind you hear from a neighbor dropping by, or a delivery guy with a package. This was different. Heavy. Authoritative. Final. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping my coffee, waiting for it. Emily had just gotten out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, hair dripping down her back. She was still pissed from her late-night screaming match with Andrew. She barely glanced at me as she walked past. That was the last time she would ever walk past me as a free woman. Then, bang, bang, bang. Emily jumped. What the hell? I stood, calmly placing my mug down. You should get that. She frowned, adjusting her towel, and made her way to the door. The moment she opened it, everything changed. Emily Becker? The officer's voice was sharp, cutting through the morning air. Emily froze. Yes? You're under arrest for financial fraud, forgery, and identity theft. Put your hands behind your back. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash. Her eyes widened. She started laughing, a nervous, manic kind of laugh. Wait, what? There's been a mistake. I didn't. One of the officers grabbed her wrist, twisting it behind her back. The cuffs clicked shut. Panic set in. Mark! She turned to me, eyes wild. Tell them this is a mistake. I took a slow breath, furrowed my brows, tilted my head, like I was just as confused as she was. "Emily," I said carefully, my voice full of concern. "What's going on?" She stared at me. I saw the moment doubt crept in, the tiny flicker of realization behind her eyes. But she shook it off. "No, I was her husband. I was on her side." She fought, pleaded, demanded to speak to a lawyer. The officers read her rights. Then they dragged her out of our house. She was still screaming my name when they shoved her into the squad car. And I just stood there, watching, calm, silent, letting it sink in. I didn't need to say anything, because the truth was already screaming in her head. And the best part? She still had no idea I was the one who did this to her. By noon, everyone in our social circle knew. The text started rolling in. "Dude, what the hell? Are you okay? I just saw the news." "Emily, no way. If you need anything, man, I got you." The headlines weren't subtle. "Local woman charged in financial fraud scandal." "Beloved veterinarian's business in turmoil after partner's arrest." "Husband blindsided by wife's secret crimes." I played my part perfectly. When her mom called hysterical, demanding to know how this had happened, I was the picture of devastation. "I don't know, Karen. I don't understand any of this." When her friends reached out, I was shattered. She lied to me too. I had no idea. And when the news crew showed up outside our house, I gave the perfect, heartbroken statement. "I just want to know the truth." I became the grieving husband, the betrayed man who had no idea his wife was a criminal. And people ate it up. Even Andrew Lang, that pathetic little homewrecker, gave a statement to the press. I had no idea Emily was capable of this. I feel completely deceived. I almost laughed out loud. Because the best part, the absolute cherry on top, I wasn't lying. Emily had deceived me. She had betrayed me. I had just beaten her to the punch. And now, while she sat in a jail cell trying to figure out who had framed her, I was being hailed as the poor, heartbroken man she left behind. The first time I visited Emily in jail, she was a wreck. She looked nothing like the confident, put-together woman I had married. Her hair was a mess, her skin pale, dark circles under her eyes. I sat across from her, pressing my hand against the thick glass like I was devastated, like I was still her loving husband, standing by her side. She grabbed the phone with shaky hands. "Mark, oh my God, thank God you're here." I nodded, swallowing hard, keeping my expression soft. "Of course, I'm here for you." Her lip trembled. "You believe me, right? You know I didn't do this." I inhaled deeply, like I was trying to hold back my own pain. "I don't know what to believe," I said softly. She flinched, like I had slapped her across the face. "But it's me," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Mark, it's me. How could you even doubt me?" I just shook my head like a man on the verge of breaking. "I want to believe you, Emily," I said. "But the evidence—" She lost it. "The evidence is fake," she hissed. "I don't know who's doing this, but someone is framing me." Her eyes darted around, frantic. "Maybe it's Andrew. Maybe it's the bank. Maybe—" She stopped. Something clicked in her head. Her breath hitched. She stared at me, really stared, and I saw it. The moment the truth crawled into her brain, she knew. I kept my face still, a careful mask of heartbreak and confusion. But my heart was pounding, because this was it. This was the moment I had been waiting for. She leaned forward, her knuckles white as she gripped the phone. "Mark," she whispered, her voice shaking. I tilted my head slightly. "Yeah." She swallowed. Then, barely audible, "Was it you?" A rush of pure satisfaction flooded my veins. I let the silence drag out. Then, I gave her a slow, sad smile. And I hung up the phone. I stood, turned away, walked out of the visitation room, leaving her alone with the truth. The trial was brutal. Not because it was hard for me. I barely had to lift a finger. The prosecution had everything they needed. The financial records, the forged loan documents, the bank statements. It all pointed to her. She sat in the courtroom, dressed in a stiff, gray suit, looking nothing like the woman she used to be. Her lawyer fought hard, claimed the evidence was circumstantial, that she was set up, that someone had framed her. But the jury didn't buy it. The moment they read the verdict, I knew it was over. "Guilty on all counts," she gasped, physically recoiling. Her lawyer squeezed her shoulder. But I saw her turn, slowly, to face me. Her eyes locked onto mine. She knew. She couldn't prove it. She had no evidence, no way to fight back. But she knew. And God, it was beautiful. The judge cleared his throat, looked down at Emily with disdain. Given the extent of financial fraud, the premeditated nature of these crimes, and the breach of trust, this court finds you deserving of the maximum sentence under state law. She started crying. Good. Emily Becker, you are hereby sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. I let out a slow breath. She sobbed. Her mother screamed. The bailiff stepped forward, grabbing her arm, leading her away. And as they dragged her out of the courtroom, she kept her eyes on me, begging me to stop this, begging me to save her. But I didn't move. I didn't say a word. I just watched her disappear. And when the courtroom doors finally slammed shut behind her, I leaned back in my chair and smiled. 3 months after her sentencing, I got a call from her mother. I almost didn't pick up, but I was in a good mood. I had just finished signing the paperwork to officially remove Emily's name from our house. The house she had planned to bet on her boyfriend's business. Now, it was mine. So I answered. Karen, I said, already exhausted. What do you want? A shaky breath. Then, she wants to see you. I let the silence drag out. Finally, I sighed. Why? Karen hesitated. She needs closure. She needs to understand why you won't fight for her. She still thinks you. I cut her off. Fine. I'll visit. I wasn't going for her. I was going for me. The prison visit. One last show. When I arrived, Emily looked different. The arrogance was gone. The fake confidence. She had lost weight. Her face was thinner, her eyes hollow. The jumpsuit swallowed her frame. She looked small, pathetic. Good. She picked up the phone, her hands trembling. I took my time, sat down slowly, picked up my end of the line. Then I smiled. Emily. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. Mark, she whispered. Please just talk to me. I don't understand. I tilted my head. Understand what? She clutched the phone tighter. You haven't answered any of my letters, she said, voice breaking. You won't visit. You won't even talk to me. You said vows, Mark. You said. I cut her off. Emily, I said soft, almost gentle. She sniffled. Yeah. I leaned forward slightly, lowered my voice. You ruined your own life, I whispered. The color drained from her face. I didn't blink, didn't break eye contact. I just let it sit there, let her feel it. She started shaking. You, she licked her lips. Mark, please. If you ever loved me. I sighed. That's the thing, Emily. I gave her the smallest smile. I really did. Her breath hitched. And then I stood up, still holding the phone to my ear, still watching her crumble. She panicked. No, wait. But I hung up the phone, turned, and walked out of the room. Her screams followed me down the hall. I didn't turn around, not even once. The house was quiet without her. Peaceful. I spent the first few months undoing everything she had touched. Her clothes? Donated. Our bedroom furniture? Replaced. Every framed photo of us? Gone. I let the world see me as the grieving husband. The poor, betrayed man who lost his wife to greed. And people believed it. Her former friends pitted me. The community rallied behind me. Even Andrew Lang, that pathetic homewrecker, had left town, his reputation in shambles, his business dead before it ever started. I had won, but not because I set her up, not because I was some genius mastermind. I won because Emily Becker was exactly the kind of person I always suspected she was. A liar, a thief, a coward. All I did was tip the first domino. The rest, she did to herself. And now, when I go to bed at night, the space beside me is empty. But I sleep better than I ever have in my life. People always ask me the same question. Do you regret it? Do I regret setting her up? Do I regret watching her life burn while I stood in the ashes, untouched? Do I regret letting her believe, even for a second, that I was still the kind, loyal husband who would stand by her side? And my answer is always the same. No. Because here's the thing. Emily Becker wasn't just a cheater. She wasn't just a liar. She was a woman who looked me in the eyes, shared my bed, laughed at my jokes, and told another man she loved him while stealing from me. And she thought she would get away with it. She thought I was soft. She thought I would forgive her. But the best revenge isn't rage. It's not screaming. It's not burning down their car or keying their name into a wall. The best revenge is patience. It's a smile, a nod, a whispered, "I love you," while the knife is already at their back. It's watching them walk straight into the ruin they built for themselves, believing you'll be there to catch them. Emily never saw it coming. She thought I was still her safety net. She didn't realize I had already cut the rope. So no, I don't regret it. Not for a single second. And the last time I checked, Emily Becker still has 13 more years to sit in that prison cell. And wonder how the hell she ever thought she could outplay me.